You can buy it online, or you can go on your laptop or your computer and pull up the videos. Mary of Nazareth. It is the most beautiful story of Mary and her relationship with Jesus. They read each other. It gave me so much hope, because in the Gospels and in the New Testament, there's nothing. There's a little bit about Mary after he dies, before he dies, and when he's born, and in the temple. But then that's it. But what they've done with the artists, and the one who directed it was the same guy that did Zorba the Greek. What's his name? Kazazankas or something like that. One of those guys. Anyway, big director. And the characters are just beautiful. Joseph is wonderful, and Peter is Peter. And John, they really depicted it beautifully. So. Okay, well.
Trinity Broadcasting.
Oh, do they have it?
I think so.
Okay, well, someone got it for me. I gave a retreat to some moms at Servite High School, and we had the retreat on Mary. And at the end of it, she said, "I'm going to send you a gift," and she mailed it to me. Oh my gosh, it's just incredible. It's just absolutely real. There's Hollywood isn't in it so much, you know. It's very real. It's good. Welcome, everyone. To watch what I say now, because some of you are repeats. Like Father Greg said last night, well, uh-oh, I got to watch what stories I tell. No. This is a different kind of a workshop, because I want to show a video of restorative justice. I've talked this weekend about what it means to really be redemptive when giving mercy. It's not just to say I forgive you, or not to get out of my face, or I never want to see you again, but all right, it's okay, it's over. Or I will never talk to you, but I won't be mean to you. Those are all ways to kind of forgive. But restorative justice is digging in deeper than you in the relationship you had before. So it sanctifies the relationship. And the people, I mean, this is a real thing. All right, now they didn't film it at the time; they filmed it afterwards. But the characters are all the same. And it happened in Chicago, and it's a beautiful, beautiful story of a terrible, terrible tragedy that changed the course of many lives, and what those people did with that. Okay, so I took out part of it. It's about 57 minutes long, I think. So what I want to do is have a little time to talk about it. So I think if we start it right away, I'm going to read a little reflection that some of you already heard. Well, you didn't hear it well the first time. I'm going to read it again because I think it's important. And then we'll turn this on and just enjoy it, but try to soak in what the people in this video have really experienced. And you'll get it. Most of you are parents in this room. You will get it. But what happened because of a person that was able to step out and do something to fix things, and how it really transformed, not transfigured, but transformed people's lives. All right, this is called The Apology to My Brothers and Sisters in Developing Countries. To my brothers and sisters in developing countries, while I was deciding which oat bran cereal to eat this morning, you were searching the ground for leftover grains from the passing wheat truck. While I was jogging at the health center, you were working in the wealthy landowner's field under a scorching sun. While I was choosing between diet and regular soda, your parched lips were yearning for a sip of clean water. While I complained about the poor service in the gourmet restaurant, you were gratefully eating a bowl of rice. While I poured my fresh and better detergent into the washing machine, you stood in the river with your bundle of clothes. While I watched the evening news on my widescreen television set, you were being terrorized and taunted by a dictatorial government. While I read the newspaper and drank my cup of steaming coffee, you walked the long, dusty miles to a crowded schoolroom to learn how to read. While I scanned the ads for a bargain on an extra piece of clothing, you woke up and put on the same shirt and pants that you have worn for many months. While I built a 14-room house for the three of us, your family of 10 found shelter in a one-room hut. While I went to church last Sunday and felt more than slightly bored, you stood on the land with those around you and felt gratitude to God for being alive for one more day. My brothers and sisters, forgive me for my arrogance and my indifference. Forgive me for my greed of always wanting newer, bigger, and better things. Forgive me for not doing my part to change the unjust systems that keep you suffering and impoverished. I offer you my promise to become more aware of your situation and to change my own lifestyle as I work for the transformation of our world. Lord, we ask you to bless this time together and to keep our hearts and minds open to transfiguring your presence within us by lighting up other people's lives and by helping all of us to transform what is needed so that everyone is considered equal in our world. Amen. Okay, are you ready? Yes. Oh, please work. Oh, you don't know what an older person without a chip in her brain has a problem with this. I think we might want to do this light too. The first thing we might want to do.
That's fine.
All I have to do is
Do we
push
get
the-
popcorn?
No, I should have thought of that. I know that. Go away. All right, now don't stop and do your thing. You hear me?
There it
Go. I hope you can hear.
What's the right thing to do when one young man kills another? We know what usually happens. We have courts and judges and evidence. And if the system works, we send the killer to prison. Nobody is really satisfied because a murder can't be undone. But maybe it's the best we can do. This is Evanston, Illinois. 3 years ago, on the border between Evanston and Chicago, one young man killed another. The system did its job, and the murderer's in prison. Some in this community were not satisfied, and they took justice into their own hands. But it wasn't revenge they were after.
Bienvenidos a todos, and welcome everyone on this night, this holy night, when we gather with our ofrendas. In the Mexican tradition, this is the Dia de los Muertos.
Your Honor, as a pastor who cares very much for two grieving families, as one who stands in the middle, like you, like the rest of society, I plead with you to balance justice with mercy in sentencing Mario Ramos. I am here because of two families and two sons. The Ramos family are members of my parish. The Young family are members of my community. Even as I grieve the devastating loss of Andrew Young, I firmly believe that Mario Ramos's life need not be lost. It can be saved. It is being saved. Christian faith calls me to hate the sin, but love the sinner. I can't imagine anything worse than taking someone's life, but I still love Mario. Faith asks more, that we believe that redemption is possible, that a person can change, and that there is a justice that heals.
Yo no sé, yo también ese día amanecí con...
That morning,
como si algo fuera
I woke
pasar.
up with a premonition that something was going to happen. I had a terrible feeling in my heart that I didn't know what it could be. I have so many children. I didn't know which one it could be about.
Me quedo en la puerta.
When he was walking out, I stood by the door and I said, "Son, be careful. Don't come home late. I'll be waiting for you." And he said, "Yes, Mom, I won't be late."
No, pues sí.
I just graduated from high school the day before, and I just got my degree and everything. I was all happy, and I was with my family. I sort of wanted to go with my friends because they told me, "Come over, come with us," you know. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go to my neighborhood, my hood, and go get myself something to go with this girl, you know, a dime bag or something, you know. And, I found some guys there, some of my guys drunk and high.
Well, Andrew, me, and a couple friends, we were taking a check to go cash and get some money. We're taking a check over to this place called Rogers Park Food Market in Chicago. It's only about probably a couple miles away from here.
And I was sitting on the stoop. I wasn't paying attention. I was just looking back and forth in that street. Because more likely, people usually come through there, you know, they're affiliated gangs. And then eventually I just, like, sat down, just going like this, like, kept looking at my watch. Because I always had a watch on.
I got out the car to cash the check and went in. And I came back out and got back in the car. And Andrew and two other guys in the car, Bruce and John, were all talking about the gang scout. She was riding around on his bike around our car, looking at us, trying to check out what we were about, I guess. And my brother and our friends didn't like that. So Andrew, he really didn't take them as much of a threat. He thought they were punks, which is pretty much what a lot of gang members are. Well, Andrew and John and Bruce started yelling swear words at him and stuff, and giving him the finger.
And all of a sudden I heard a scream, "Man, you, blah, blah, blah," you know. Now I was like, what's this, you know? I stood up. I was looking. I don't wear glass. I don't like wearing glass out of the street because I didn't think it was cool. It didn't look nice on me, you know. And my rappy was screaming. He was throwing up gang signs, and eventually I did too. I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And they were laughing, you know. And then they sped off. And then my rappy was mad, like, you guys, you know.
After that, we took off in the car and went down a side street and came back around. But all the whole time, we saw this kid who was on a bike take Mario Ramos on the handlebars of his bike and ride through like the back alley.
And the car was going really slow, and they were still taunting us with signs and stuff.
And we thought they were coming after us. It was like, these guys are nuts. What are they doing?
As soon as I saw them turn left where this gang alleyway is, I got suspicious. I'm like, what are they on?
And we come back around the corner, go back on the Clark, and there's a big red light because it's like around 5 o'clock during rush hour, and was backed up about 6 or 7 cars. So we were riding on the bike, and he's like, look, they caught a red light. So I like, well, we can catch them now. And these guys are steady coming up to the car. They're probably about a block away. I'm looking behind because I don't know what they're up to. And my rapper was like, he bumped me off. You know, I got off. I like, whoa, I almost fell down. And I like, hey, where are you going? You know, I thought you were going to do it. He's like, no, you got it, you got it. I like, oh, man, so what am I going to do now? He's holding a handkerchief like this. And I'm thinking in my mind, I hope that's not what I think it is. And I really couldn't say anything because it started to freeze up. Didn't know what to do because we're stuck. I came up to them and I like pointed the gun. I like right then and there, I just said, oh, I got to control myself, and I started running. And my rappy said, there's cops. I like, what?
I saw him pull a gun from his waistband, stick it in the car, and then fire one shot into the vehicle.
I just started going hysterical.
I bailed out the car right here and started running down the middle of the street.
There was another cop, and I saw him too. By that time, I already threw the gun away.
He was running a straight shot because traffic was so thick he couldn't get through.
And the guy got out like, freeze, you know.
I grabbed him, searched him, handcuffed him, and my partner grabbed the kid on the bike. All of this happened in a matter of maybe 2 to 3 minutes. As soon as we kind of got up from ducking, my brother Andrew, he looked scared. I couldn't believe my brother was shot. It was just a shock. I couldn't move. Friend Bruce had said my name a couple times over. Finally got me to help him put Andrew in the passenger seat, and he drove to the hospital. And I was checking my brother to see if he was okay, and because he wasn't responding at all. He was just kind of like, I think he was just dying out of the car. I was sitting here and Sam called me at home. I was probably at the hospital within 15 or 20 minutes of the shooting. I know the hospital pretty well because when you raise 4 boys, things happen. They get stitches. You get to know your way around the emergency room. And I walked straight through to the quarters of the working people, and there was Andrew on the table. His clothes had been removed, and there was a doctor with his hands over Andrew's chest, pumping down, which I know that meant he was trying to get his heart to start beating again. And I was standing there staring at it, and to describe that feeling it's surreal. That's about the only word I can think of, because you're seeing something that nothing in you is believing. There's your son, and with a doctor pumping hard down his chest, and you know he's been shot, and you don't know if he's dead, alive, critically wounded. You just don't know. I couldn't see any blood, and well, my mind was swirling with all this, with all these questions. A security guard came up behind me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Excuse me, but who are you and why are you here?" And all I could say was, "That's my son." And he said, "I'm sorry, but you're going to have to come with me." He was very gentle about it, and he led me back to a room where Sam and the other 2 kids were, and I walked in, and it was just an atmosphere of high tension. Everybody was very, very upset, and a couple of the kids were screaming about those, Latin kings, obscenities, and so we just hung in there, and the doctor came in, and she said we tried everything we could do. We opened up his chest. We tried to massage his heart into beating again, but there were 2 very large bullet holes in it, and we could not save him. That's how I was told.
I really couldn't say anything at all. I was just kind of dead emotionally. Couldn't do anything. My dad was crying and saying, "Oh God, no."
Sam and I were together, and we went numb, and we just kind of held on to each other, and then they brought in Bruce and John, the
two friends, and I told Bruce, Andrew's gone, and Bruce went berserk. He just picked up chairs and tables and started throwing them all over the room, and it was a hung ceiling, and he destroyed half of the tiles, and it was just raw emotions. We all lost, our son, our best friend.
When I got there in the ER and people started looking at me oddly and whispering, I knew something was up. And then when I finally found out where Steve and the boys were, and I saw them all huddled and crying, and Stephen would say that Andrew was gone, my immediate reaction was to say to those boys, to ask how it happened, and then to say there'll be no retaliation. Okay, that was the first thing I thought of, because I know boys, I know men. Men want revenge usually immediately. It's their nature.
We all spent time in a room that they had set aside for us with Andrew's body, and it was still warm. And it was very important that we got to spend that time with him, because it was our opportunity to say our last goodbyes to him.
That time ended up being 5 to 5.5 hours right in there before the coroner came. So it was really a very hard but good time. We got to examine him and massage him and look at his blue eyes again, and take some of his hair, everything. Just let go of him very slowly.
After that, we had to go into the police station and stuff and answer questions and look at a lineup. And I saw Mario and really couldn't believe it was him at first. I had been to school with him. I knew him kind of like as a buddy in between classes, just talking to him or whatever.
The first thing went to my mind, I'm locked up. Is that good or is that bad? First thing popped up, that's good, You might get rank or, you're going to get used, you're going to be known. I was like, yeah, in the streets you'll get known, It's like a title for you. I was like, well, that's good. Then I started thinking, well, I'm locked up. That's bad. Then I started feeling sentimental for myself, like, oh, I'm not going to see my friends anymore. I didn't even really think about what's going to happen. The cops kept reminding me, if he dies, you're burning up. You're going to get life. They started talking bad, you're going to turn to be a bee. You're going to be a woman. You're going to kneel on your knees. And then I started praying, but this was a selfish prayer, I was like, no, I care for myself, Get me out of this one and it's straight,
Por más tarde a las 11:10. Yo más estuve esperando y esperando.
11 o'clock came. I waited and waited. But then I don't know what time we got the call. I saw that my husband changed color when he answered the phone, but he hid it well. I asked him, who was it? He said, no, it wasn't important. They were looking for someone, but I could tell that something was going on.
Cuando la policía dijo que a lo mejor había matado a un muchacho.
When the police told me that he might have killed a kid, I felt sadness, or something I never felt before. Pain for what he did, sadness for not having talked with him.
Y hasta entonces dijeron, fíjate que Mario le dio a alguien.
Later he said, listen, Mario shot someone. I said, my God, I hope he can be saved. He told me, no, he already died. Then I felt, oh my God. At that moment, I honestly felt like my own son had died.
If this were a typical murder case, the story would pretty much end here. The criminal justice system would step in to do its job, and the people whose lives had been torn apart would be left to deal with their pain individually. But this was anything but a typical murder case.
I first heard about it from the radio or television or something. I heard about it sort of in the background. My initial reaction to it was, oh my God, I said, lock the kid up, throw the key away.
This is the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. Happy are those who are invited to his table.
It was probably a week or 10 days later that I found out that it was my Mario, my kid, our Mario, that had done this. I didn't know what to do, but I knew he had to do something. I knew I had to do something.
It was like Father Oldershaw took this on as his son. This is a son of our parish. We have to help him.
I told them that a tragic thing had happened, that I had become aware of this, that it happened in our parish, and it was one of our children who had taken the life of another boy in the community.
After his arrest, Mario Ramos was moved here to Division 11, Cook County Jail. Both Mario and the kid on the bike, 15-year-old Roberto Lascano, were charged with first-degree murder. One of the first people Mario met in the jail was Ron DeRose. Ron is a Catholic deacon who ministers to the inmates here 5 days a week.
Coming in onto the living unit, I've spotted Mario being a little bit separated from the rest of the group. That usually comes when you enter the deck and surround you. I noticed something was going on with his head down, sense of being troubled, not knowing exactly what it was, and looking at this as an opportunity to meet him. I eventually moved towards him and invited him to sit down at the table and to talk. And you couldn't talk to Mario and not recognize that this man was in a crisis.
I mean, all emotions went through me, like, I didn't want to be locked up. I'm too young to be locked up. I wasn't thinking about really the family. I think about less my family, most likely myself, and saying, I don't want to be here, I want to get married, I want to have kids. I was just crying, like sobbing all the way down, and just laid his hands on my head and just prayed for me. And when you open yourself up to somebody like that and you feel so filthy and just like, man, exposing myself, what he's going to say, I feel so embarrassed. I don't even want to be around you, I'm not even worthy of being around you.
Yo llegué a este país en el año de 1977.
I came to this country in 1977, and in 1978, Mario was born.
Fue el primero que nació. De aquí de Estados Unidos fue el primero.
He was the first one born in the United States. For me, it was something I couldn't get over. I was very sad. I didn't know what to think of him, being the first one born in this country.
I wasn't wild or anything when I was younger. I was just like a regular kid in like a little suburb, you could say. grade, I met a friend of mine whose name was Manuel, just like my dad, and he started telling me about certain gang-related gangs, which I never knew about. And then eventually they said, these guys are after you guys. You know, you guys got to turn the Latino gang. It's all about Latino thing, and they're about blacks and whites. And I was like, I got confused. I didn't know about it. But ever since that day, my attitude towards seeing black people or anything affiliated with anything that wasn't Latino started changing.
Al principio cuando, como dice, cuando entró a la escuela, entró a la high school.
It was when he started high school that he began to feel fear. It was about half year after he started that I could tell he was sad. I don't know what kids were saying or what they were doing to him.
I started building up so much hatred. I started getting chased going home or hanging around my friends, and every once in a while we did the same thing. Well, now let us try it, you know. Okay, let's do it. So we jumped on a few people, beat up a few people, chased a few people. In my senior year, that's when I finally just said, it's over with, you know. I got to take another step, and I started gangbanging, you know. And my family and friends of theirs, they didn't know about it. They never really knew what we did. And they just knew us for going to church, and we had to go to church. And it was like an image we had to keep with them so they wouldn't suspect us over here.
Nunca en la casa conmigo, nunca se portó mal.
Never at home. He never misbehaved with me at home. That's one of the things I asked him. Why? For what reason? Why did you have to do this? But he would never answer.
Lo único que me confesó ahora últimamente fue que me dijo, créeme sinceramente que lo que me pasaba.
Recently, he did confess one thing to me. He said, I really wanted to tell you what was happening, but I was afraid. I wanted to break down and cry with you, but I was afraid of what you would say.
Cuando iba a la iglesia, se me quedaban viendo,
When I would go to church, people would stare at me.
diciendo que iba, y no se quedaban viendo. Sin embargo,
Like they were asking, what are you doing here? I don't know what they saw different in me, or why they had that reaction to me.
como culpable,
Like I was guilty.
¿Te compadeciste?
I don't know how to put it.
They were so totaled by this and embarrassed, and they didn't know what to do. And so, anyway, I went to see them and just sat there with them for a while and listened, and we just held them. And they were bewildered too and trying to figure it all out. And then I knew that I needed to get out to see Mario. We met in the chapel. And I looked at him, and my gosh, I mean, he looked just like he had looked. You know, I mean, he was still the gentle, quiet Mario, you know. Anyway, we met, and the first thing we did, I mean, he just sort of came in my arms, you know. I said, what happened, you know, why? How come, you know, why? How could you do this, you know?
And he embraced me, and I embraced him too, and he didn't really talk too much. He was just more like one of those people that just wants to wrap you and just doesn't want to let go and wish he never would leave. It's like then and there, you know, I like cried in myself. He said, don't worry about it. He kept just patting me and don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. I'll take care of it. I don't know what other feelings he expressed when he left, but I know I was thinking a lot. I told my cellie about it. He's an older person in the gang that I used to be in, and he started telling me, you know, I could see a change in you. you're not gonna stay in this for too long. And at that time, I'm like, you're crazy. You know, I'm gonna be in this gang forever. This is my life. This is what I'll be about. And he's like, okay, you'll see.
There's no way you can restore someone's life, the life that he's taken. But do we serve justice by destroying another person and taking another person's humanity away? Don't we serve justice better if we, renew or try to rehabilitate and bring someone, back to a fuller humanity?
When you experience a tragedy like this, the hardest part for me was not, well, my own grief was tough enough to deal with. I mean, I was extremely depressed. But trying to take care of the rest of my family, that was extremely difficult. My other sons, because, they had less than adult tools to deal with this. And it just broke my heart to see how tough of a time they were having.
Kind of put us at a standstill for several months. My dad couldn't work. My other brothers, Philip and Clint, they were pretty upset. Philip was devastated, and Clint, he didn't understand it. Clint, he didn't know how to deal with it.
Andrew had a nickname for Clinton. He called him Toothy, because he was, some of his teeth were there and some weren't. He was almost like a second dad to him. He was just that nuts about his little brother. But Clinton couldn't read, write, or draw for 6 months after Andrew died. He'd start fires in the kitchen and the stove. He'd stand out in the street and wait for cars to hit him because he wanted to be with Andrew. That's what he told us. He didn't want to live. He wanted to be with his brother. And I could identify with that because there were times when I just said, what's the point? What are we hanging around here for?
May Almighty God bless us all and keep us in peace. En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amen.
After the murder, Father Oldershaw wanted to contact the young, but he wasn't sure how they'd react.
I was with a parishioner who had lost her husband, and we had supper together, and she told me, I know the Youngs. I said, you do? She said, I said, well, could you introduce me? And she said, sure. I said, I'd like to meet them sometime. And I thought, well, sometime. I'm still stepping back a little bit. I said, and then I was driving her home, and as I drove her home, she said, there's Maureen. She just drove up. And I said, oh. She said, would you like to meet her? And I said, I would. So I gulped, and then I said, okay, let's, yes.
And I knew who he was, and I was a bit skeptical. Sort of like, well, I don't know you. It's nice of you to come over. But I was a little suspicious of him.
And we talked for a few moments, and I just told her if I can do anything or be there for them in any way, please to, know that I'm there, that our parish is there. The parish is very distraught, and we would, like to be there for them in any way that we could be.
I missed him by just a few minutes. I had just left. And it was about 2 weeks after Andrew died, and I was in such a dark mood, and I was so angry at everybody. And I would have been especially angry at him because that was his kid from his parish. I probably would have bit his head off if he walked up. But as it turns out, he left his phone number. I called him within a few days. We had a long talk at about midnight. We talked for about an hour. And I went over to meet him after that, and we just sat in a small room and talked, and I brought a picture of Andrew to show him who he was.
As their friendship with Father Oldershaw grew, Steve and Maureen felt drawn into the community at St. Nick's, even though that community included the parents of their son's murderer. While they still belonged to a Protestant church nearby, the Youngs began to attend Mass at St. Nick's. Slowly but surely, the murder of Andrew Young was becoming not only a matter of criminal justice, but a matter of community.
Oh, what's really important is to hold Mario through this and hold the Youngs through it, hold the Ramoses through it, and just to be, let them know they're all supported.
Father Oldershaw knew that he couldn't do all this alone, so he enlisted the help of his parish.
There was an article in the bulletin and it said, you know, anyone interested in writing Mario Ramos, here's the address. So I thought, well, I could do that. So I wrote Mario a letter and he wrote back.
Pretty soon, Arlene Bozek and other parishioners were writing and visiting Mario regularly.
And when I thought about all that, I was like, this is strange, you know, why would she do this? She don't even know me.
As Mario's sentencing drew near, Father Oldershaw enlisted the help of a parishioner who is a criminal defense attorney, and he decided to take the case pro bono. Meanwhile, the people who were helping Mario were seeing what seemed to be a genuine transformation. As his cellmate predicted, he did leave the gang, and instead affiliated himself with other Christians in the jail. But he still didn't know what to make of all the love and attention coming from outside.
That's something I've asked even my Christian brothers, what is going on here, you know, I don't know. Who am I, you know, I killed somebody, you know, I'm not proud of it. You know, it's something that I'm not even going to boast about because it's not, you know, it's a really disgraceful thing. Somebody died.
As Mario came to grips with what he had done, his thoughts turned to the family of his victim.
It was like placed in my heart to just write to her, you know. Something was in my heart just telling me it's right to do it, you know, just go ahead and do it. She's not going to get mad. She's going to be touched by it, you know. So I just, mostly what I wrote was, I'm sorry for what I did, you know. Things can't change, you know. I can't change the past, you can't either. And, I'm just hoping for the best that something good will come out, but I don't know if you ever find it in your heart to forgive me. And I just hope in some way you can forgive me, even though I can never bring back your son.
Even as Mario's letter was on its way to Maureen Young, Maureen was writing her own letter to Mario. The two letters crossed in the mail.
It says, Dear Mario, you don't know me, though I suspect you heard of me. I am Maureen Andrews' mom.
And my heart was to write him a letter and tell him about my life.
I thought of praying for you many times since the day you shot and killed my son.
I had been raised Catholic, and I had done all kinds of things that needed forgiving.
I'm sure you have had plenty of time to think about the tragic mistake you made.
And God had forgiven me, and He didn't hold it against me anymore.
Well, I don't know whether you'd ever feel up to asking my forgiveness for killing my son.
Therefore, I could offer him forgiveness.
So I'll go first. I forgive you, Maureen Young. And when I heard those words, I said, what? You forgive me? Just kept just kept running through my mind, you know, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you.
I'll tell you, it was a bucket of ice water in the face at first. I was like, what? It didn't compute. But I chewed it around, and knowing Maureen and knowing where she comes from, and a lot of issues, it finally settled in and it made sense.
I never really hated the boys that did this, and I never felt like I wanted to get even. I found it necessary to forgive out of very selfish reasons. I know my Bible, Old Testament and New, and I know what unforgiveness does to the mind, to the spirit, to the body. You know, the Old Testament talks about it eats away the marrow of the bones. I mean, it causes bitterness, which decays your health. And so I knew that I needed to forgive, because if I didn't, I would lose my mind.
I'm still angry at the kid, but there is a spirit of forgiveness in me, not to the degree that Maureen's been able to conjure up, but it's still there. I mean, I forgive him because he did it as a kid. He did a foolish, impulsive thing, but I did a lot of foolish, impulsive things when I was a kid. So, in that sense, I can forgive him.
How are we going to do this, with tape? Okay. This is Rose's son, Nicky. Here's Andrew. Every one of these children lost their lives to guns.
After Andrew's death, Steve left his career as a piano tuner to become director of the Chicago chapter of the Bell Campaign, an organization founded by victims' families and dedicated to handgun law reform.
We're trying to educate the public and eventually put pressure on the politicians so they understand that we have a gun policy that's basically making guns available to kids who don't know any better and are using them to settle schoolyard fights. That's why we're losing 15 kids a day in this country.
I know a lot about these people and their business practices, and they know what's going to happen. Every time a box leaves their shipping dock, they know there are X amount of funerals in that box, and it's going to happen to other families. The same thing happened to us.
This is for the children and the mothers and the fathers who have lost them.
As the two families and their communities began to find their own ways to deal with what had happened, the role of the criminal justice system seemed to have become secondary, until one day when a criminal hearing brought Steve Young and Maria Ramos face to face.
De la comunidad había mucha gente. Estaba el sacerdote.
There were many people there from the community. The priest was there. He came up to me and said, I'm coming to be at your side to give you courage.
And I'm sitting next to Mrs. Ramos, and Steve comes in with his attorney and sees me and comes over and sits down next to me, and so I'm got Steve on my left side and Mrs. Ramos on my right side. And I'm saying, what do I do? You know, and I'll tell you, I'm an Orthodox Catholic, so I'm thinking, is he going to get angry? I'm sitting next to Mrs. Ramos. If I introduce them, then he'll feel that I've been caring for her and not caring for, I'm being pulled back and forth, yanked around in this direction. I just said, I turned to him and I said, Steve, this is Mario's mother here. Would you like to talk to her? Would you like to meet her? And I turned to her and I said, this is Andrew's father. And I just got myself out of the way.
I remember I held her hand, you know, we sort of clasped, it wasn't a handshake, it was like we held hands. And I didn't know, she speaks very little English, but even if she had spoken English, I didn't know what to say to her. I just kind of looked at her, and I knew that her son was going to enter his plea of guilty that day. That was a significant hearing.
Como diciendo, pues, tú no eres culpable, tú no lo mandaste.
It was like he was saying, you are not responsible. You didn't make him do it. That's what I felt he was telling me. You are not guilty. It's not your fault.
Tears started rolling down my cheeks. And the same with her, we just looked at each other. You know, we were crying for our sons. Hers was going to prison and mine was in the grave.
On July 3rd, 1997, Mario Ramos was sentenced to 40 years for the murder of Andrew Young.
I didn't know. I was just all day like 40 years. I don't know what to think about it. I was hoping to give me less, but I guess they had to do what they had to do, and I deserved the time I got, and I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to be happy about it. I'm just going to think about what actually happened, and that's the way it worked out.
So I began to understand a little more about what justice is, you know, what is just, what is good, what is the right thing to do. Well, the right thing is to love someone and forgive them, but to have consequences to bring them to a turning point in their life so they can be restored. And so the whole sense of there needs to be loving punishment. That him being in jail is a loving thing to do for him, to bring him to his senses.
In the months following the sentencing, Maureen and Mario continued to write to each other. In these letters, Maureen offered not only forgiveness, but guidance. Soon, Maureen decided to take a bold step. She wanted to visit him. She knew she couldn't go alone, so she asked two people both she and Mario trusted, Father Oldershaw and parishioner Arlene Bozek.
Well, the whole ride-up was an experience, because we talked about it in the car and we prayed about it in the car that, you know, it would go well, because this was the first encounter. We didn't know if there would be anger or...
And I was pretty nervous. You know, I had been the one pushing to do this. When push came to shove, I was still quite nervous.
They were very good at the jail, but they were watchful too, because they didn't know what was going to happen. You know, they were wary.
Everybody knew why we were there, at least officially, and who I was.
The assistant warden came over and he couldn't quite figure this. He said, you're coming. She said, yes, Mario killed my son. She said, and you're coming to see him. She said, yeah. And why? She said, I just want to tell him I forgive him.
When Mario first came in, I could see he was really tense.
I didn't know what to expect. One thing I was scared of, I thought she was going to like stand up and just slap me or do something to me, and which I wouldn't be able to do nothing because I wouldn't do nothing.
I saw Mario off with the guards, and we were told what seats to sit in around this little table.
She sat there. Arlene sat there. I sat here. And Mario came in and sat down there. we just sat, almost quietly at first.
I could tell he was afraid to look at me. And so I grabbed both of his hands across the table, and I looked him in the eyes, and I said, I want you to know that I'm glad to be here. And then Father Oldershaw said, this is a holy moment. So let's all take hands, grab hands, and pray.
And we just held hands. And I, just said, Lord, help. We need to lean on you. We need you to hold us as we hold one another. And let this be a moment of deep and profound grace for all of us. Then Maureen, asked Mario, about his experience. What's it like? What should they do in a day? And then they got talking.
It was a little hard at first, but he really began to open up. And we talked, about how things were going for him.
She talked about herself. She talked about her family. We talked, and then the conversation just changed,
I told him some of the things that were going on in my family that were hard to hear, I'm sure. But I looked at him squarely and I said, you caused this mess, okay? So now you have a responsibility to hold us up in prayer. You're part of this family, whether you wanted to be or not, you are, okay? You're like my own son.
How can a mother sit there across the table and say, you came into my heart through a violent act, but now I embrace you as my son. She did not say a son. She said my son.
He got pretty shaky. He got pretty shaky and started to cry a bit. And Arlene grabbed hold of him. He did okay. I mean, he needed to hear these things. He needed to hear the consequences of what he had done.
Seeing the mother of the boy he killed, facing her, looking directly at her, into her eyes, being there. It's no longer someone out there, but it's right here. In many ways, it had to be harder confronting the mother of the person you killed, who was not saying to you, I hate you, but saying, I love you. At the end of our meeting, after we talked, prayed again together, and got up and they did embrace. For some time, she held him in her arms.
I see a lot of potential. I see a good student. I see someone with a lot of time on their hands who is wanting to turn his life around. And I don't want to waste that.
To tell you the truth, I don't think I'm even ready for it out there right now. I'm still going through a lot right now. I'm still going through a lot of changes. I believe that people do change, and for myself, I don't think I'm fully to the point where God wants me to be and where I believe I'm supposed to be. That's how come that door is still closed.
What's the right thing to do when one person kills another? We ask our justice system to determine guilt and innocence, and then to punish the guilty. But in the process, maybe we've lost sight of our own power to find justice, as individuals and as a community.
restorative justice. And that's what we're called to be. It was one family in a Chicago town in a parish. We all come from parishes in a diocese of Reno Town, Orange, Diocese of Orange, wherever we're from. And it just, to make that step, you caused this mess, and now you're part of our family. And I call you my son. And that's a step that is incredibly difficult, but it's a Mary step. It's the Blessed Mother step. She never retaliated. She just loved her son. And I think that's what the Pope is asking us to do. And you know, I really believe that we can make a difference in this world of ours. Step by step, child by child, family member by family member. I believe we can make a difference just by being, as St. Catherine said, being who God meant you to be and setting the world on fire. Because people don't know what to do with goodness. Goodness will never be destroyed in us. Goodness will never be overcome by evil. Right now, seems like we're losing the ball game here. But we're not. We might go into extra innings. But we'll win because goodness can never be overcome by evil. It can't be done. The mayor of Anaheim, where I live, declared our city a city of kindness. That was his platform. We were going to be a city of kindness. And it's amazing when it's done. You know, you can't pass somebody on the street now that you don't say hello to. Doesn't matter what they look like. The sisters get upset with me a little bit because when they go shopping with me, I'm going to talk to everybody in the store. She said, after this happened and I was invited to the mayor's house with the Catholic, he's Catholic, belongs to one of the parishes, with the Catholic pastors, and we had dinner. And he told us about this, and so I said, okay, I can do that. That's something I can do. So Sister Joanne went with me to CVS and walked in, and I said, hi, good morning. And she goes, oh my gosh, are you going to do this every place we go? And I said, yep. And she said, oh, brother. So we were picking up something, and a lady walked by with a card, and I said, hi, happy day to you. Isn't it great? Joanne's going, oh God, we're never going to get home. Don't take me with you the next time. But it seems like a little thing, but we all know that good will prevail. And so what I'd like to end with, I hope it'll be okay. First of all, I have a few handouts if you want to look through these. I think what I'll do, last one I blew, if you got them the last time in the same one, I'll just put them out on these chairs. But these blessings are unique unto yourself, so please, I'm going to have somebody hold them at the door and take a blessing. And there's 100 different blessings that God can bless you. I want them all. You want them all? It's amazing. Every time I pull one in a group, I always say, well, I deserve one. Do I pick one? It always applies to me on that day. Always. So I finally said to the Lord, I'm done with you. Just done. Anyway, God says, what does he say? Go do it, you know, make it happen. So Mary is a very important source of all of our lives. Always has been and always will be. The miracles that have happened around her apparitions cannot be explained in any of the places. You know, they're tearing Guadalupe apart trying to decide if she's a phony, but they can't even bomb her out of there. They started a bomb, and the bomb blew up everything except the tilma. It's not going to happen because it is a miracle. And we know that there's another piece to our life after this one. We know that, and we believe that. But I think God gives us little hints. Sister Julia, this big, I don't know if I told you this last year or not. I haven't told it this time yet. She was about this big. She was about 4'7", I guess. And she was my sidekick, and she was about 40 years older than myself. And we were stationed together, and she'd go with me every place. And so we made a bond, a pact, that we were going to do everything together. So she put me down as her durable power agent, and I'll talk to her about it when we get to heaven. She reached 98 years old, and she wasn't well then. And we just had the best time together, just the best time. Great, great woman. Very deeply spiritual, simple first grade teacher for over 50 years. And just loved the Lord and loved life. And so I was called to the mother house, and had to make decisions and all this. It was very difficult. But I was sitting next to her bed in our care center, St. Martin's Care Center, and I was sitting there, and she said, I said, Julia, we're supposed to do everything together. She said, oh, honey, I don't know if it's going to work this time. And I said, Julia, you promised. We made a pact. And she said, well, I'll ask God, but I don't think he's going to do it right now. I think we're going to have to wait till we experience heaven together. So then I was with her another time, and she said to me, oh, there's Mary. And I said, Mary? And she said, you know, the blessed. I said, I know who Mary is, Julia. I said, is she by herself? She said, no, with El Nino. And she said, come on, you can't see her? And I said, no, I can't. And so I talked to Mary in her room. And I talked to Jesus, and I remember feeling an incredibly holy presence. And she died the next morning, and I know Mary took her. And so Mary's important to all of us. It's like we learn about Mary before we learn about God when we're growing up. I know about your moms, but about Mary, because Mary was real in one sense and tangible, and sometimes it's harder with our Heavenly Father. So the Pope has asked us to say a Hail Mary for him, and I hope you do that every day, because has been named on that ISIS list, and he wants to do a lot of things before he goes to heaven. So let's remember the Hail Mary for the Pope, and I challenged my boys to say one during the day, every day. So they have to admit it and be honest, because we're Dominicans of truth, and if they don't say it one day, they have to say two the next day, and we know this. But I'd like to end with the Ave Maria, because it's beautiful and because it will set us in a different place, I think. So when the song is over, you can come up and get the handouts if you want, and will somebody be my person at the door, or my Knights of Columbus? Will you do that afterwards? Thank you. Just hold these at the door, and they can get one going out, and some handouts will be here. And I just love you all very much, and I will hold you deeply in my prayer. I promise you that. Each day when I'm with somebody, they become part of me, as Mario became part of Maureen. And so you can just go when you wish, okay? But thank you for being here, and thanks for being so dedicated to your God. And may each of your days bring you a little bit closer to him in whatever way he demands from you. And it's okay at the end of the day to say, what in the world was that all about? It's okay. And he'll say to you, figure it out. Okay. Thank you so much. Dominican blessing. May God Creator bless you. May God Redeemer heal you. And may God the Holy Spirit fill you with light. Lots of light. Be transfigured. If I don't see you before, we'll meet in heaven. And there's a few handouts here if you didn't get them before.